Okay, so welcome to Conversations with Kindy. We are going to today talk about our programming and planning and what we do at Kindy, and basically the why we do what we do at Kindy. I'll just start off by explaining this document, which is a fabulous document. It's our national framework, the Early Years Learning Framework for Australia, Belonging, Being and Becoming. And we are mandated to use this document, which basically ensures that we are covering the whole child at the centre of everything we do. There's principles and practices that we adhere to, and there's 5 learning outcomes that we cover in all of our program, and we will refer to those when we do lots of assessment and reporting with your child throughout the year. So you'll see the evidence of those. But we use this as a base with a lot of our thinking prior to us going into our everyday planning. So Nell, could you talk to us about your big book of planning and learning?
So we've only recently introduced this to the children, and obviously because it's the very start of the year, it's going to look very different now to what it looks at the end of the year. But the kids already love this book. Basically, it's an opportunity for children to have their say in the planning at Kindy. It's also an opportunity for children to reflect and document things that have happened during the day. So for instance, we found a dead bird in the park this morning. So the kids have done lots and lots of writing. Loads of writing about that. And we do some scribing with them about maybe why they think the bird has died. And then they do lots of drawing. They're really big at the moment on me printing out photos, and then they're cutting them to put them in there. And so this kind of then informs our planning. So there'll be ideas that come through here. When we work with small groups, kids might say, oh yeah, next week I want to do this or I want to do that. We then incorporate that into our planning. So somewhere back here, sorry, flipping backwards and forwards, you may find, here we go, these bits. So this might be what we think that we might explore this week, what we like to hope we will explore, but because our planning is very emergent, Lee's so this is straight out of the EYLF document, the Early Years Framework. And then at the end of the week, we will go back and we'll look at what we actually did explore from that. Because the ELF framework is really at the core of what we do, most weeks we're covering a pretty fair chunk of it. So then you'll see that we kind of write up all of this stuff from the kids, and there'll be the kids are loving the post-it notes at the moment, but we use the post-it notes too to document which children are participating, because sometimes for some children they might be sitting with us but not actively involved in the conversation. Some of them, we had a little boy last year that his contribution was always to snip bits on the end of the pages, but he was involved in almost every planning meeting. So kids have different ways of making their voices heard at Kindy, and we want to really be able to show that through here. So there will always be a little post-it note and kind of a bit of decoding that the adults do afterwards. But the kids kind of really own this book, as you can see.
So it'll be great for you to be able to come and access this. It's always available.
It's always available. Some mornings it will be out so that parents can have a look at what we're doing. And by all means, kind of feel free to contribute as well. So if you see that we've got an interest going and there's something at home that you think, ties in with it, we'd love to hear about it. So
also something that we've got here, and we'll hear from Kerry about it as well, is that every morning we have a learning meeting. And at that meeting, we will put some provocations out for the children. We'll have, put something in the mystery box. And we also will have some, it's a bit like a staff meeting, really. We talk about some agenda items, some things, maybe some agreements and some learning that we'd like to discuss. So what you will find is that they're always on display. So that's the base of each day. You'll see that, today there has been a discussion about dead and alive, but based on the dead parrot. We couldn't have planned that. They found that and went from there. But that was going on from lots of learning before about dead and alive.
And group times can be a really good way of doing that really explicit teaching around keeping ourselves safe at kindy. So stuff like using the cones in the park, talking about fire drills and the evacuation, things like that. And we'll always document it in here, which is just a really nice way for parents to kind of get an idea of what's happening at kindy as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Kerry?
I think one thing to take note of is that both of these books will probably look quite different, and so will the planning, because the idea of this is that the children are they're the centre of what we do. So they're coming up with some of the ideas that they would like to cover at kindy, and therefore we're programming in that. Therefore, the Frogs Children's program, or things that are available to them, will look quite different to the Bugs Children as well.
And so it should.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, that means that some weeks, the Bugs Children might be doing something that the Frogs won't be doing at all. And that's okay, because it's based around the children's interests. We do it slightly, pretty much the same. We have just a small group, and they come in and they draw about the things that they would like to do at kindy the following week. And we also try to do a bit of reflection with the children. What did they like to do at kindy this week? What didn't they? What don't they want to do? What else can...
Why.
Yeah, and ask why. And just to try and find out what it is that they're after. And the other thing that, just going on from what Lee and Nell were saying, is that we try to scribe those group times. So when we have a mystery box and we ask them what might be in there, we give them a couple of clues, and then we actually try and write the children's names and their ideas of what they think might be there before we finally give it away at the end. So yeah, we've got all sorts of amazing work that happens in here, and how that can be viewed and assessed as well. It becomes part of our assessment process.
It's not just the group times and the planning stuff either, is it, that goes in there. Quite often, if kids have got individual inquiry projects that they want to follow up, that will end up being in the mystery box as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, mystery box
In the
four
books. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So essentially what we really want you to know is that there's lots of thought going into each and every day and each and every activity. Sometimes there's not. Sometimes we're putting things, and the intention that might be out is actually about it being a transitioning into kindy activity, and that's okay. That's our intention. There may be other things that we put on there, and the intention is for a whole range of different, perhaps disposition or skill development. So, but there is lots of thinking that the children do. So we've got child-led learning and thinking. We've got teacher reflection that happens from this, but also every day we look at the end of the day, we look at every child every day. We have this data we collect, and it gives us an opportunity as staff to sit down and all together meet, and that's what we do straight after kindy. That's why we urge for punctual pickup, because we then use the data that we have, that time that we have, to reflect on what worked in the day, what didn't, what was interesting, what did we find, out about children. And then we all get a chance to talk about every child every day. How can we support particular children? How can we foster perhaps some emerging friendships? How can we challenge and stretch and provoke children as well? And what do we need to do to ensure that? And then we put it into here. So it really is an ongoing cyclic process where the child is truly at the centre of their ideas, and we facilitate that through a range of different experiences. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an insight into into the planning cycle and what we do at kindy, and why we do what we do at kindy. Thanks.